Okay, today's episode of the Gambola podcast brought to you by our friends from Basketball and Fix Planet. Whether you're a fan of the PBA, NBA, or kung fan kayo nila Bradford Smith. Partner fan ka ba nila Bradford Smith?
One game wonder.
Then, kung fan ka, then BNKB is the only Facebook group you need to join to share your insights in the world of basketball. As always, on the line is my cousin B. Gamboa. And partner, just ko good news na naman. New episode, we have a new guest. Ikaw na bahala mag-introduce sino yung special guest natin.
Medyo matagal na to eh. Masyado na kasing mahirap ma-reach to, partner eh.
Ay, grabe.
Hindi na masyado. Kailangan nila eh.
Okay, let's just tell the viewers a little more about Jutt. Jutt is a sports journalist. He is a sportscaster for One Sports, a sports writer, and pursuing a career in events. He also hosts events. So his name is Justin Stephen Cruz Sulit or
Kailangan banggitin mo ang pangalan?
Bakit nakasulat sa guardian mo eh, so kailangan ko sabihin eh. Welcome to the show, brother. Welcome to the show. Long time.
Thank you guys. Thanks Dave and Wee for having me. I'm excited. Yeah. We've all been looking for someone to talk basketball to, di ba? And I live alone eh, so sobrang importante namin yung nakakausap tungkol sa basketball.
I'm sure, Judd, this is going to be the first of many episodes that we'll be doing with you. And I'm sure na aside sa boredom, na being alone, one of the things that has been saving us is the Netflix documentary of The Last Dance. So kanina, they were able to release episodes 7 and 8. And really the first topic or the first storyline that the producers went into is the relationship between Jordan and his father. So alam naman natin yung pinaka-common story, Jordan and his father were really close. But I think the documentary really did a great job of diving into how it impacted Jordan's decision to retire, given the circumstances of his father's death. There were even rumors na gambling controversy. You could see the media during the documentary that they were blaming Jordan for his dad's death. So what do you guys think about that? I mean, let's start with you, Judd. What can you say about the whole dynamic between the father-son, Jordan and James Jordan, I guess?
Well, ang galing, di ba? In the earlier parts, I'm not sure if I think it was the very first episode. Remember when James Jordan actually said on the documentary then na parang he was always on the tough side when it came to Michael kasi parang he didn't really believe that Michael was the best athlete in the family. But I don't know kung it was only his way of pushing his son to become greater. But as Michael became great, there's nothing more for me. I think there's nothing more important talaga in a career of an athlete, especially when you're on the rise pa lang pursuing your path, than having the support of the most important figures in your life, di ba? I mean, pagbata ka, yung mga nagpapasarel, mga SVP, syempre, kailangan mo maghatid sa'yo yung parents mo eh. And Jordan's dad, and even his mom were there hanggang umabot na siya sa NBA. So that support never wavered. And I think that's really step one in the making of a great athlete.
Ikaw naman, V, on your side naman, given how do you think, how big of an impact James Jordan really played on developing Jordan as what we know about him so far now, being the GOAT, basically, from his competitiveness, from his work ethic. I mean, what could you really say about those the dynamic as well? Wala ka ata, V. I think you lost your mic. Or are you on?
There you go.
Yeah,
there.
Go.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
All right.
Nagulat ako nagsalita ka tapos walang lumabas eh. But go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so from what we saw from the documentary, how they portrayed James Jordan was to Michael, parang he's not just a father. Of course, he's also a friend. He was the main person who he talked to about what he was about to do in his career, what steps does he have to take. Kumbaga siya yung talagang shining light for Michael. And parang siya yung first piece of advice na pakikinggan ni Jordan. But that's what I saw from the documentary. So for him to lose his father, in the pinnacle of his career was really a big hit. Kumbaga, it's the biggest contribution to his retirement. Eh. Kumbaga, it's not just the only reason why Michael retired. It's a big chunk of why Michael retired back in 1993. So for him to lose that figure, that advising figure, really hit Michael in the gut. Then it completed his decision to retire and walk away from basketball.
Yeah, and I think even before the sudden demise of Jordan's dad, nandun na yung gambling controversy, no? And at least the documentary really did a great job of trying to connect the long rumor that gambling really caused James Jordan's death, or it was a suspension from David's third kay Jordan, diba? Ang daming ganung type of controversy, pero it felt like it was just very clear that this was a homicide. James Jordan was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, I believe the simple story was that he was just going home from golf, mahaba yung biyahe, gabi na, natulog siya, pagkagising niya, meron nag-hold up sa kanyang dalawa, and yun, nahuli lang siya. He was just caught by two suspects, basically. Nakakaawa lang naman din. And adding that to another layer of reason for Jordan's sudden retirement during the 1993 playoffs, 1993 season. Ang nakagulat, ito, Jutt and Wee, ito yung nakagulat. During the 1993, when Jordan accomplished the PP and he was already ready to retire na talaga, people were already considering him the GOAT. Diba? Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, a lot of people with those things. And I think that's one of the things na medyo understated in Jordan's legacy. Like, if he could have won 3 rings lang out of the 10 years that he was playing, I think cemented na rin yung legacy niya talaga eh. Don't you guys think? Kung hindi talaga siya bumalik?
Well, diba, there was a bit then in episode 7 that Jordan said na parang he was ready to retire na nga ng 1993. But what drove him was that Magic and Bird daw never won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
So he wanted to get that 3rd straight ring, and he did. And I know factored in talaga yung the passing away of his dad and all the other things that happened. Pero I think Jordan was such a competitor. Talagang we saw this mula sa first episode of this documentary. Actually, kahit rookie year pa ni Jordan, even before the doc, we knew he was such a competitor, and he was driven by the achievement of people around him. Diba? It started with kung paano mas magaling sa kanya yung utol niya, si Larry. And that drove him to become better, and that was just the nature of his competitiveness.
For you naman, V, if, for example, Jordan really retired for good, 1994, with just 3 rings out of 10 years, GOAT pa rin ba?
With the arrival of Kobe and Lebron, I don't think so. And you know who wasn't able to win 3 rings in a row? LeBron James. Just kidding. Just kidding. Anyway, so no. My answer is no. My answer is simply no. I mean, the biggest factor that Jordan has over LeBron and Kobe is the 6 rings. So if you only have 3 rings, then you can't really call yourself the GOAT, or his peers can't really say he's the GOAT, because after the 3 rings that he got, he retired, right? And that's part of his legacy, retiring and going back and staying on top once again.
Yeah.
So you can't really say that he's the GOAT if he retired, stay retired in 1993.
Yeah, I'm also very surprised din kasi during the sudden retirement announcement of Jordan, knowing how competitive Jordan is, di ba? But looking back at it, 10 years, 3 rings, and he really thought, enough na, wala na akong motivation masyado. Lahat na nang tinapat nyo sa akin, tinalo ko, Phoenix, Portland, Clyde Drexler, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, lahat halos wala na nang nakapantay. And I think once that really settled down, he moved to baseball. And I'm giving this to you, V. What could you say about Jordan's very, very short MLB or baseball career?
I can't really say anything. He didn't really play well, in my opinion. But the thing is, would have he gone would would have he won 3 more if he didn't go to baseball? That's the biggest question.
Yeah.
I think baseball gave him that second life. So I didn't really blame him for playing baseball. I think it really helped him not just elevate, but change his game to be a mid-range monster, probably the best mid-range player we ever had. So I think baseball really is a big part of his legacy, not just because he retired to play that sport, but when he did that, it helped him be probably the greatest player of all time. I think that's a big reason for him to be happy that he did that decision.
For you naman, Jutt, what could you say about Jordan's very short 18-month baseball break? Do you think it was just like letting off some steam, living off his dream for his dad, or talagang it was also an added incentive for him to become even greater in the second half of his career?
I guess for me, I see all of those angles in it. Pero yung isa kong nakikita din was that he was the best already in basketball. And yun nga again, I think sobra kasing na-highlight sa akin yung pagiging competitive ni Jordan in this documentary. So I feel like alam niya at that time. Ako na pinakamagaling mag-basketball Wala na bang challenge dyan. So when he stepped away, he found another calling in baseball. So a calling that he had naman for a while, but he had to set aside. Pero one thing I think is baka hindi siya bumalik sa basketball if hindi siya nag-baseball.
Correct.
Because he couldn't be the best in baseball. And he really wanted to be the best at what he did. So when ewan ko lang this is just how I feel, but that's how I see it, na parang, okay, hindi ako magiging pinakamagaling dito. Kailangan ko ulit maramdaman na ako yung pinakamagaling. Balik akong basketball.
Yeah.
There's a feeling in me that says that.
That's actually a great point. Actually, ngayon ko nga lang din na-realize yung ganung type of thinking there. That is actually a great point. For me naman kasi, if Jordan really retired because wala nang motivation, why didn't he thought of getting a 4P, which really not a lot of people has done since probably Bill Russell, George Mikan, or alam mo yung mga babalik tayo sa 1960s or 70s. And I think it just goes back to the main reason na talagang baka burnout na siya. Going into the baseball topic naman, let's talk about yung mga current NBA players ngayon. Do you guys see any current players that could actually succeed in different sports now, besides of basketball? Like, could you name some people or some players who succeed
Lebron James.
Football. Okay, kala ko sa chess. Kala ko
billiards.
Kala billiards.
But I don't think he's gonna get a free-peat.
Pero aside
Punta na kami dun Pa-champion na nga Lakers, biglang natigil. Pambihira naman, no?
LeBron fan ka ba, Jutt? LeBron fan ka ba? Laker fan ka?
Okay, fan.
Same time.
Laker fan si Jutt.
Okay, so...
Pero kayo actually, Kobe. Die-hard Kobe fans.
Yeah,
Kobe's the greatest. Pero aside from LeBron James, do you guys think of... can you guys think of other NBA players?
Yeah, actually, since we mentioned baseball, Pat Connaughton of the Milwaukee Bucks actually he was a two-sport athlete from youth, and he actually had a choice of taking either direction, MLB or NBA, and he was both projected to be
first world problems.
Di ba? To be
MLB or NBA?
Sang sport kaya ako.
So yun. That's a number one player that I can think of right now.
Yeah, I think naman siguro we can all agree, as my partner Ria said, the number one LeBron fan here. LeBron could really have succeeded in the NFL. I mean, with that type of body, iba pa rin naman talaga. Now let's talk.
I'm giving him na nga the praise he deserves. He can succeed in the NFL. Doon na lang siya.
Which is very, very rare for you. Which is very rare for we to give praises kay LeBron James.
I also watch. Kukunin ko yan yung compliment, we.
Go.
Take that compliment.
Grabe kayo, I'm gonna talk to you after the show.
I also got to watch a forum recently on 42 Analytics. It's one of the conventions, sports conventions in the States. And they were talking about learnings from cross-sport learnings. And then something, kasi may mga teams, NBA teams na front office people dun sa panel. They were talking about looking into kids talaga who have played different sports nung bata sila. Kasi it helps daw, nowadays daw, yun yung direction, kasi mas maganda yung coordination, hand-eye, foot-eye, hand-foot coordination if you have all this experience and disciplines na experience mo.
I think siguro when we talk about hand-eye or hand-foot coordination.
Hindi ko alam
Hindi ko alam yung tao eh. Pero let's talk about, di ba si Kobe Bryant, he was very successful in basketball. Pero yung first sport niya was football. Diba? He was a soccer player. Kaya fundamentally sound yung footwork niya. Steve Nash, also a great soccer player as well. And yet, you could see yung mga Euro step, footwork, spin moves sila. Sobrang dali lang sa kanila. The problem lang ngayon, when people start at a young age, especially when they are trying to pursue the NBA dreams, yung body mo hindi ata kinakaya na in the long run eh. Derrick Rose is a perfect example. Diba? People, kids now in the US, they start in the AAU circuits probably mga 10, 11, even 12-year-olds. Like, ang bilis mag-peak ng mga ang katawan nila. When we watch a documentary, si Jordan, diba, nagsisigar pa yan, umiinom pa nga ng beer eh.
Grabe. Sobra.
Okay yung katawan nila eh. Very fit eh. But people now, di ba, yung mga bata ngayon, kung ano yung kinakain, very diet conscious, protein bars, protein shakes, and everything else. Pero ang bilis mag-peak ng mga katawan. Technology plays such a huge role now. Pero yun nga, may mga pros and cons. Now, let's go back dun naman sa documentary. The return of Jordan after the 18-month stint. One of the things, siguro, before we skip pala sa baseball, was when he reconstructed yung body niya. That was the first time na na-realize ko. Well din pala.
Yeah.
Well din preparation na yun. I think a lot of people understand kung yung changing your body from being basketball fit to being baseball fit. Diba? Parang I think pag napapansin mo yung MLB or yung baseball days niya, he was very lean. I can only imagine yung body percent fat niya. Mga 2%, 1% siguro.
1.5.
Sobra pa tayo ngayon. Pero when he came back as the number 45 Jordan, he had to rework all of his body skill set para to cope up with the demand of the NBA grind. And this is where I'm trying to lean on dito sa topic ito. When he returned, he was wearing number 45. And then he went back to number 23. Tapos dun bumalik yung laro niya. Habang pinapanood ko yung scene na yun, sa mga kanto games, may mga pick-up basketball games, I realized wala masyadong nagsusuot ng Jordan number 23 jersey. Kahit sino, yung mga kaibigan natin. I think I've only seen 2 people at most in my lifetime na nagsuot niya. And I want to ask you guys, what do you think is the mystique of wearing the number 23? Do you think yung pressure ba of yung mga kasama natin sa laro wearing that jersey?
Well, I think it's so easy. I think pagka nasa mga liga ka, or generally when you're playing basketball, the number you wear is always, ang una agad na naiisip ko kapag may nakasuot ng whatever number. Diba may naka number 8. Idol nito si Kobe.
Yeah. Or Aniv.
Yeah. Or ano?
Aniv.
Pwede rin.
Anniversary.
Diba? Monster eh. Diba? Pag college, pag high school tayo, parang naglulukan pa ba tayo dito?
But go ahead, Jutt.
Yung number 88, 8803, Anib talaga yun.
But go ahead, Jutt.
So, I think lang, it really says a lot, or at least ako yun yung naiisip ko agad eh. Parang idol nito si ganito. Lalo na titingnan mo, pareho pa ng naka-sleeve din, or naka-headband din, or whatever. But when it comes to wearing 23, I don't know. For me, I've been able to play with a number of people who wore 23. We nung may team tayo dati, number 23, si Flav, kung natatandaan mo.
Yes.
Ayun. Pero mas Rodman siya than Jordan.
Yes.
But
yung shooting form niya, Jordan, pero...
yung
Pero
shoot.
naka-Jordan jersey or just number 23?
No, 23 lang.
23 lang.
Mm.
Pero have you guys seen players or kahit mga
Rarely.
nakalaro na naka-Jordan?
Oo nga. Okay.
Rarely.
Naka-Jordan
Rarely.
jersey, not so
Very
much.
rare, diba?
Yeah, not so much.
In my opinion, kasi parang parang it's all at least in our time, parang it's just Jordan. It's just Jordan that everyone knows.
Yeah.
Kumbaga, cable TV is just starting. Kumbaga, it's just Jordan, and NBA is Jordan. Pero if you wear something different, kunwari at 21,
yeah.
Oh, who's your idol? Kevin Durant. Sino yun? Tapos pakita mo yung video, solid to angas nito Kunwari, number 8, hindi siya Jordan, pero he's close to Jordan. He's a very good player. Mas okay.
Yeah.
But if you choose a different number other than 23, for me, it was cool Pero if you choose 23, parang, di ba? Sus. Di ba? Jordan na naman, it's a Jordan fatigue, di ba? Parang, it's just that's just my opinion.
Or, baka if you see a person wearing the Jordan jersey, at kita mo pa lang sa first shot niya, medyo short, pangit yung form,
Nakakahiya.
layup, nakakahiya. Ano yun? Nakakahiya
Yes.
agad. Don't you guys agree? Diba? For example,
May isa rin akong...
Go ahead.
Go.
Yung
May isa lang...
Sorry. I give it to Jutt.
Go muna, Dave. Ikaw
Sige.
muna.
Sa akin lang kasi, pero akong nakita, again, I watched 2 or 3 lang ata na naka-Jordan jersey. Tapos lahat sila medyo off-game talaga. As in, airball, mid-range, fade away na nakasipa. Alam mo yung ganung type of form. So parang meron ka na agad na judge mo na agad siya. So pag ginudge mo na yung tao yan, all throughout the game, aasalin mo yan. Kung feeling Jordan ka naman, di ba? Pabigat ka pala. Yung mga ganun type of asaran. So what I'm trying to get lang is that simply wearing the Jordan jersey, kahit sa mga kantong laro, iba pa rin talaga Iba yung dinadala ng ganong type of mystique. Now, Jutt, go. Pasa ko sa iyo talking mic.
yung theory ko rin isa, ewan ko I'm just thinking about it. Baka ayaw rin lang, I mean, a lot of people that we play with play in Jordan. Diba? So, baka ayaw maasar na complete uniform. Kung Jordan na yung sapatos nila, Jordan pa yung jersey nila.
Okay, ako parang yung mo na lang, kung nag-Michael Jordan jersey ako, tapos kapos, parang mo sinabi, ba't ka Jordan yan? Sabihin ko, hindi, anib yan.
may safe answer ka na agad. May safe answer ka na.
Diba? Next time, gano'n na.
June 23 kasi ako No, okay. Let's talk about naman, partners. Yung pagiging good teammate ni Jordan or pagiging kupal niya. Ito na lang. To say it the least. Pagiging kupal niya with his teammates. During the documentary, they interviewed Scott Burrell, Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc, Scottie Pippen, and a lot of Chicago Bulls role players. And one thing is the common denominator na Jordan is kupal. Jordan really asks a lot from you, especially on the practice. Dahil na off day, wala siyang pake, gusto ka pa rin niyang talunin. And the one thing that stood out naman sa akin was that he was never going to ask you anything na hindi niya kayang gawin. I mean,
Yes.
that's just basically a true leader, don't you guys think?
The same with me. I think that was the statement also that stuck to me during that stretch that they talked about that.
Yeah.
Shout out Scott Burrell, former PBA import.
Yes.
Tapos parang it really reminded me of Kobe. How there were so many stories. But kasi it's tough I guess it's difficult to be the best then sometimes, and then you demand of yourself, diba?
Yeah.
I can imagine they demand of themselves wins, championships, like talagang yung mga Jordan, yung mga Kobe, yung mga Lebron, siguro one-off game, talagang bad trip na sa sarili nila But pero paano mo may expect yung ganun din sa teammates mo, di ba, who aren't really at the same level as you, but then yun nga eh. I think that was the saving statement there for Jordan na parang basta ano, pare-pareho tayo ng ginagawa. Hindi ko naman sinasabing mas magaling ako sa'yo, mas mabigat yung buhatin mo or mas marami itakbo mo. So basta sabay ka sa akin. Pareho tayo, team tayo.
Hey,
So I think that was a big thing.
Yeah, speaking of former PBA import Scott Burrell, I mean, yung mga early parts ng documentary, siya yung binubuli talaga. And yet, when in a one playoff game, when he had 23 points on 9 of 11 shooting, sobrang saya din nila, ang saya din talaga nila eh. And I was watching that game, I was watching the highlights. And ang pinag-uusapan si Scott Burrell, 23 points, 9 out of 11. Jordan only had 38 points. Parang ako, Jordan had 38 points. Tapos hindi niya pinag-uusapan. On your side naman, what can you say about Jordan as a teammate based on the testimonies of his former Bulls teammates?
Well, like what Jutt said kanina, as long as I'm doing the same thing, you shouldn't complain. Kumbaga, we're a team. We do everything as a team. And, if I was playing with the Chicago Bulls and Jordan pushes me like that, I wouldn't mind. Because, for starters, I know I'm not as good as him. And I'm still learning with the best. Why not, diba? Kumbaga, I want to be pushed as far as my talents can go. Well, he's just doing the right thing as a teammate. Of course, no one could really reach his level at that time.
Yeah.
But for him to make that effort and push you to the limit, I think that's, a great characteristics of a good leader.
Well, fair point naman. Now, as we are nearing the end of the Netflix documentary, I think we only have 2 episodes left for next Monday. I want to ask you guys, what is the one thing that you
4.
learned?
I think I have 4.
What? 2.
We have 4 pa. Hindi ba 12 episodes o 10? 10 lang ba?
10 lang.
10
Yeah,
lang.
it's a 10-part documentary.
Sucks, man.
Yeah, it really sucks.
Ngayon mo lang na-realize.
Ngayon mo na-realize, ha?
Ngayon ko lang nag-realize the whole time. Akala ko may 4 pa. Parang ako, shit.
4 na shows na yung ginagawa natin, nag-recap
Damn it.
tayo.
Akala ko 12, man.
Sayang nga eh. Bitin nga yung pagkakagawa eh. Ang ganda nga eh. But going back, I want to ask you guys, out of the 8 episodes that we have watched on The Last Dance, what's the one thing that surprised you or fun fact that you've learned after so many years of being fans of Jordan or being fans of the NBA? Ano yung natutunan nyo lang about dito sa documentary ito na hindi nyo akalain makukuha? Ako siguro to start this off, nagulat ako dun sa story ni Bradford Smith. Siya yung in-introduce natin sa intro kanina. Pero Bradford Smith, I never really knew who that guy is. I'm a huge fan of the NBA, but I've heard of his name for the first time. And he had a one-game wonder against Michael Jordan. He had 38 points. 37 points.
37 points.
Yeah. And then, sabi nila, he said, good game, Mike. Diba? Good game, Mike.
Yeah.
And Jordan used that as fuel. Tapos parang after yung sa second back-to-back, Jordan dominated that game. And we never heard from Bradford Smith. And the one thing that I learned about this documentary is that Jordan just needs that one tiny motivation to really dominate the whole game or to really dominate his opponents. To be mentally, alam mo yun, on top na, meron na siyang advantage agad sa inyo.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that probably is the advantage of Jordan against any next Jordans or any next GOATs. Alam mo, yung mental warfare niya yung konting motivation lang niya para talunin ka, para durugin ka talaga eh. Very, very surprising talaga. Yeah.
And the crazy thing about that story is, di ba yung ni-reveal ni Mike Wilbon during, parang sabi niya, di ba, sabi mo nga, Dave, Jordan just needs that little bit of motivation. And then a few days or weeks later, Jordan says, that story wasn't true. I made it up. So parang, oh my
Just
God.
to challenge himself. Just to challenge himself, man. Solid.
Kung kaya mong mag-imbento ng something that will motivate you to dominate every game, paano ka pa mapipigilan? Di ba? And then, di ba, Nick Anderson then had that moment when he said 45 isn't 23.
Yeah.
And then the next game, Jordan wore 23 and lit it up.
38 points.
Nakakagulat though. Competitive. We always talk about competitive persons na they want to succeed. Jordan, kung ito yung competitive person, Jordan is just way above here. naghahanap talaga siya ng mga ibang ways to add fuel to his fire. Baseball, golf, basketball, betting, kaya nga siya nagkaroon ng gambling controversy niya. And even nga yung pag-release ng documentary na to when people were saying that Lebron might be better than Jordan, di ba doon niya pinago yung production ng documentary na to That was in 2016, 2017. Diba? So even even post-retirement, he was still adding fuel to that fire, trying to remind people na wait, nakakalimutan niyo ata ako. For you guys naman, what was the one thing that stood out for you?
Go ahead, V.
Yeah. Ako yung simply kasi to be honest, I've seen most of the footages except for the 98 season. I've seen most of the footages shown in the Last Dance from the 1986 footage to the 1993 footage.
Yeah.
There were a lot of VHS tapes of Michael Jordan. Come Fly With Me, Above and Beyond.
Yeah.
Those tapes really opened my eye about Michael Jordan. I really knew he was really competitive, but I didn't know he was that competitive. Kumbaga, this documentary was just icing on the cake in terms of Jordan showing everyone how fierce a competitor he is.
Yeah.
Kumbaga, it just adds to what I love about the guy. I mean, he's simply the best for me, and you can't really say anything bad about him. Him being a mean person was for the good of the team. So how can you hate a guy, diba? And his continuous battles with the Knicks and how hard it was to get past the Pistons, talagang na-highlight. It showed everyone how basketball was played back in the day compared to now with the tiki-tac fouls. Kumbaga, it was, field goals were actually harder to make back in the day compared to the NBA today. So, it's just a reminder for the kids to know how it was and how it is. And I hope this documentary changes the minds of a lot of kids who the greatest player of all time is.
For you, Jutt, what's the one thing that really stood out for you?
Oh, I think if there's siguro with the timing and everything of things that happened and the release of the documentary, one thing that I really take away from The Last Dance is how similar Jordan and Kobe are or were even outside the court Kasi lagi natin kino-compare yung mga fadeaway, lagi natin ko-compare, nagbabantayan sila. These were the images and the videos that we saw on the internet, social media. They were always there. Numbers, kino-compare, all that. But pati yung ugali yung ayaw magpatalo, yung nagiging coops na dahil sa sobrang gigil manalo, how they were off the court.
Vucevic ba yun? Vujacic?
Si Vucevic, diba? Si Chico niya.
Diba?
Vujacic pala, Vujacic. Tama?
So,
sorry, Vujacic. Sasha Vujacic,
So parang yun parang nagulat ako na, I mean, hindi lang sila sa on the court, magkapareho pala, in a lot of other ways. And nagulat din ako at how, a day after a game, yun nga yung sabi mo kanina, Dave, nagsisigar sila. After a game, nagbe-beer sila.
And to dominate, to dominate each and every game with that type of a lifestyle. Diba? Golf, pupunta pa nga sila sa casino ng 2 a.m. Tapos paglalo nung kinabukasan. It speaks to how really talented Jordan is. Now, Jutt, since medyo minsan lang namin makasama, I want to ask you a question naman. We and I have been discussing this type of debate for so long. 2 questions. Do you think there will be a player better than Jordan? Second question, what could LeBron James do to be better than Jordan? I mean, in your opinion. Kasi diba, it's...
Nakatutok si Wee. Natatakot ako
Let's admit this na lang, Jutt tsaka Wee. Ever since the Last Dance drop, it's always the Jordan-LeBron debate. Nabanggit ko nga kanina Jordan had this production go nung nanalo yung Cavs. Sabi niya, tuloy niyo na yung documentary niya yan, produce niyo na yan. So, I'm sure Jordan is also very much aware on the Jordan-LeBron debate. Diba? So, I'm giving this to you, Jutt. Could there be a player kahit wala na si LeBron, could there be a player that might be better than Jordan? And what would LeBron James need to do to be really better than him?
Right now, I think Michael Jordan is still the greatest to play the game ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay. Tapos na tayo ba? Tapos na.
mute mo na ba ako? At this point, I would say yes. But then, with Jordan asking the the production of the documentary to be released during the heat of the Jordan LeBron debate, I think it also goes to show how much off the court things factor in, how much your story factor. Sabi nga ni Wee, baka hindi naging, without the retirement, without the baseball stint, yung 2000 na balik, pwede natin kalimutan yun eh. But that 93 to 95 break, or 94 break that he had, it was so necessary for him to be considered the GOAT. Kasi there were things to talk about eh. But when it comes to, will there be someone better than Michael Jordan? Years from now, I would say yes. Because we take a look at Kobe, we take a look at LeBron, they got close. They were in conversation or in discussion na lumaki silang pinapanood pa lang si Jordan. Paano pa yung mga bata na napanood si Jordan, si Kobe, si LeBron, si Dwayne Wade, si ganito, si ganyan. And then you put them all together. Evolution talaga. So I am pretty confident that there will be someone maybe not really be undisputed, undoubtedly GOAT, pero baka may challenger soon enough.
For you naman, wag na yung LeBron question kasi ilang beses natin nagiging debate to. But do you think, or for the next prospect of being the greatest player of all time, ano yung kailangan niyang gawin? Itong player X na to, ano yung kailangan niyang magawa to just one up Jordan's legacy?
So for me, no.
My dad just said na 10 championships now.
Okay, kuya. I agree. Anyway, no. To be seriously, Bill Russell won 11 rings.
Yeah.
But he didn't dominate.
Yeah, plus there were only 8 teams, 8-10 teams during that time.
Yeah, and he also statistically didn't really dominate. He was just a bigger rebounder than Wilt was.
Yeah.
Wilt was scoring, rebounding, and blocking. So, kumbaga, the ring factor for Russell is, parang nawala eh. Kasi individually, he's not as dominant. LeBron James is statistically dominant. He has, numbers. He will blow Michael. He will blow off the charts in terms of record books. Kumbaga, he's blowing Michael I think total points. I think he's ranked third already. He's in the top 10 in assists. Kumbaga, he's a statistical monster.
Fantasy monster, basically.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the rings that Michael has.
Yeah.
Michael has 6 MVPs and the statistical dominance. So he has the perfect balance of statistical dominance and winning. So that's really hard to do. So that's what's lacking. Kumbaga, Jordan's in the middle. LeBron is here. Russell is here. Jordan is the perfect balance of winning and statistical dominance. So it's really hard for LeBron, I think, to reach that Jordan status, in my opinion, because he's already lost a lot of finals. And he's in the late stages of his career, and that Dallas series was really ugly.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it really happened in our very own eyes. We saw it. So for him, I think for him, parang maybe total Jordan's championship rings. I think he'd be at par with Jordan. But I don't think he's gonna get past Jordan, but at least be at par with him. I think that's in itself is a good feat already.
I think for me, actually, since the last podcast that we did with Chef Jose, I've conceded the fact that Jordan and LeBron should not be a debate anymore. It's pretty much clear that Jordan really is a better player overall talaga. And as we have said kanina, yung competitiveness ni Jordan, I'm not saying na hindi competitive si LeBron James, pero Jordan's competitiveness and adding fuel to his own fire really sets up a lot of different things. Eh. That sets him apart with guys like LeBron and even Kobe, I think. Alam mo yun, si Kobe is very competitive. Yung naalala ko, one Kobe story that I love was when Gilbert Arenas dominated the Lakers. At ano yun, away game yun eh. Ay,
60
home game
points.
yun ng Lakers. 60 points.
Bumawi si... Yung nagbaw siya.
Oo, nagbaw siya, di ba? The next matchup nila, Lakers versus Wizards, si Kobe naman nung bumawi. I think he had 45 or 50 and he won that game. That was very similar. But Jordan's competitiveness, again, ang layo talaga eh. So, the next debate that we really should have, and I think partly we will be having this debate in our next podcast, is sino ba yung second greatest player? Because right now, Jordan really is clear first eh. Ang layo talaga. Yung argument ko before was LeBron was very much consistent. Parang practice siya nasa finals. Ang hirap gawin nun. Yun yung lamang niya kay Jordan. Jordan had to take a break. But LeBron was there. 8 straight finals in such a talented team. But as we have seen in 8 episodes in, ang layo talaga. Before we end our podcast, Jutt, minsan ka lang namin ulit makasama. So I want to ask you naman, ano ba yung insights ngayon, di ba, with the whole COVID, the ECQ, lockdown? Alam naman natin na yung sa NBA, medyo hindi pa hasa yung schedule niyan eh. Even American sports eh. So, as you're in the circle naman of the Filipino sports, especially in the sports media, you want to ask, ano ba yung insights ngayon? Will the PBA resume? Kailan ba? And what are the thoughts of the commissioner or anyone in the PBA?
Well, I have no direct line, to be honest. I'm just in groups with the TV production and parang they have some of our higher ups have been in discussion or trying to get word kung what's the situation right now.
Yeah.
And I also heard from a discussion between the commissioner with sila Carlo Pamintuan and Magumar John, my colleagues sa sportscasting, that it might take a few months really to before it resumes. We might be looking into the second half of the year. Tsaka ang dami kasing magbabago eh. I mean, live sports is nabubuhay siya with tao, di ba? I mean, that's where it lives. So you take that away and a lot has to change, di ba? Parang even sa mga katrabaho namin na sportscasters, we are lucky to be working with legends and greats in Sir Sarmenta, the Dean Kinito Henson, Dr. J. Anyao.
OGs.
I mean, exactly.
OGs.
So we've had a couple of these conversations with Sir Steve na parang syempre hindi siya pwedeng basta-basta out there, and we have to take precautionary measures. So kahit kaming broadcasters, baka sa studio lang, and we call it off-tube, di ba? Yung parang looking through a screen rin lang kami nagko-cover ng game, and a lot has to be thought about and has to be set up kung babalik nga talaga. But I'm one with every fan. I got into where I am today because I started out as a fan, and I really miss Philippine sports.
Yeah, and it's a sad thing kasi dito sa Pilipinas, alam naman natin basketball is basically a religion. Diba? Parang kung sa religion status Catholic or basketball fan, susulat mo dyan. And it's very sad that this whole situation that we are in really changed a lot of things. And we really hope to have sports soon. Buti nga yung UFC medyo bumalik eh. Di ba, partner?
Oo nga eh.
So at least maybe...
What a card, ah. What a card.
Yeah, what a card. And they were able to pull that off. So the next major leagues that we need to resume, especially, of course, is the NBA. Kasi pangit pag kinancel yung season eh. Sayang yung effort ng mga players eh. Alam mo yun?
Lakers, no?
Sayang Lakers natin eh. Sayang Lakers natin, boss eh.
Ito na yun eh.
Oo, ito na yun eh.
Oh, well, everything happens for a reason, guys.
Jutt, tinis natin yung dark times. Wesley Johnson, alam mo yun, yung mga Xavier Henry. Magcha-champion na ulit sana tayo. Ito na naman tayo. Pinigilan pa tayo ng NBA. But on a serious note, di ba? I mean, sports in general, unless magkaroon ng vaccine in the next few weeks or the next few months, sports in general...
Very unlikely.
Very unlikely. But Sipin mo pare mo na tayo kung live audience. May 1 seat apart, naka-tube tayo. May mga salamin pa, naka-PPE pa. Yung mga players kasi naka-warm up attire, naka-PPE sila. Ganun na yung, ganun na magiging itsura.
Imagine the ticket costs kung ganun.
Oo,
Di ba?
Oo.
So,
Semi-VIP, yung bleachers.
anyway, nakakalungkot na. But as always, thank you, Jutt. Buti nakasama ka. And we really can't wait to have you
Thank
in
you.
our episodes.
Thank you, Jutt.
Puerto Rico, do you have any last thoughts for our podcast?
No, this was actually fun. Very long time in the making to. Jutt said I actually told him last year that we guest him in one of our shows.
Yeah.
Pero now at least at tuloy, I'm really thankful. Jutt, thank you so much. It was really nice
Thank you,
talking
guys.
sports with you, and we hope to get you back anytime soon. Are you willing to do that?
Check ko lang yung sked ko ngayong lockdown. Medyo wala nang magawa.
Medyo walang magawa. Medyo fully booked dahil sa wala eh. Pero seriously pare, once na matapos yung lockdown, tapos pwede na yung mga gatherings, inom tayo sa podcast.
Tara.
That will be a great show again.
Awesome.
As always, thank you to Basketball and Kicks pare. Thank you to Jutt Sulit. Thank you to Gambola. And until then, next episode, next Monday, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
All right.